What's going on, guys? Today I'm going to show you a method to pretty much fully revolution a 100% Zamorak kill with range. You don't need to have best in slot gear, I guess, to do this. However, if you do have the Bow of the Last Guardian, it makes it significantly better. There are a few manual casts that you probably are going to need to do. Well, you're absolutely going to have to manually cast Death Swiftness, and you're probably going to want to manually cast a Bow of the Last Guardian spec as well as a Dark Bow. But in the first kill, you will notice that I don't actually even cast any of those and I still get the kill. So this should be a relatively easy method for you guys who have range. I do wear the Dracolich armor in this, but I don't think you actually need that. You probably could get away with just like any sort of range power armor, to be honest, but I would say the normal Dracolich or Elite Dracolich is definitely worth using if you have it. Alright guys, so I'm going to be starting my 100% Zamorak kill here. I should probably turn on Revolution and rip that guy, unlucky. But anyway, so for this method, I really like to take Incendiary Shot off of my bar here, and same thing with Death Swiftness. I personally prefer to manually cast these for the Zamorak boss fight, and that's just because mainly for the final phase. I mean, if it wasn't for the final phase, I'd probably revo these, but yeah, mainly because of the way the final phase works, you really don't want to be like, I don't know, like suboptimally casting abilities and stuff, because it'll probably just get you killed if you screw up. So yeah, I personally like to take these off my bar for this fight. Also, it does help quite a bit for the pad portion, like phase 1 through 6, if you call it that, like the beginning here of the fight where you're like dealing with these pads. It does help for that as well. But you can use a Calgarian demon or a Ripper demon, or if you need the healing, you could use a Reaver. I mean, you could use a Grimoire. You probably could use a like full book even, although I don't really know if I like the full book for this because taking extra damage on phase 7 can be kind of iffy, especially if you're a little bit slow or something like that. But this is kind of what the kill looks like. I have like my actual preset for this. You definitely don't need all of the switches and whatever. Mainly all we're going to be using for this is going to be the Dark Bow EOF. So you don't need like a Saren or an Eldritch EOF or anything like that. I'm not going to be using Death Spores for this either. So it's going to be hopefully as simple as possible. But there are a few things that you do need to know for this method, and that is going to be obviously how to switch your prayers between range, melee, and magic, and then soul split as well. Probably use my ranging one. And then you are also going to need to know how to use a few of the defensive abilities. If you're using a Reaver, you should probably have the Prism here. And then you can use really whatever aura you want. I'm just going to actually turn on Dark Magic so I don't waste a good aura. But yeah, that's really all you need to know. And then all we do here is go over here and then manually cast Death Swiftness here. And then as you can see, so at the start of the fight, Zamorak will, I probably should have moved into the pad. I like to move into the pad before I do the rapid fire, but anyway, you can see here in the beginning of the fight, Zamorak will just hit you with magic, and then he'll switch to these range hits. Just try to keep up with the prayer switching. You don't have to be perfect with it. I mean, he doesn't hit super hard or anything in 100%. So anyway, the first mechanic he'll do is this melee thing. You will burn. All you do here is pray, melee, and devotion, or I mean, you could reflect it or whatever. It doesn't really matter that much, but you can see he puts this pile of black smoke on the floor. You can walk into the smoke to collect it. It'll make the hit harder, but all you do is like reflect the hit. You can also resonance it, but you have to do that. You have to like time that, so it's probably not recommended for people learning. But yeah. Basically all you do is make sure you're praying melee and at least using a defensive against the melee hit, because the melee hit can hit insanely hard. And then after you phase Zamorak, you can see the gray health bar at the top. That means you've phased him into the portion where this little witch spawns. And basically what you do here is you click the extra action button to go into this realm and kill the witch, and then you click it again to leave. And you have to kill the witch in order to charge up a new pad, so you have to be doing that. and you should probably keep your prayer up. That would definitely help. So anyway, we're just going to charge up another pad here. I'm just kind of going slow so I can explain a bunch of stuff here, but you definitely could be going as fast as you can, I guess. Probably the best way to do this. But as you can see here, we will be getting another mechanic here in a second. And this next mechanic, all you do is use like freedom or anticipate, and then you're supposed to stun it once you like do the animation where you're going up into the sky. Like during that animation where you're kind of floating upwards is ideally when you stun it. But I'm assuming most people aren't going to be that great at that. So what you can actually do is just once you get into the realm like this, just use immortality, and you'll see this big red ball flying here from the sky. You can see it's coming in, and then it'll actually hit you out here as well. But you can see immortality, you know, you take the damage, you take a lot of damage from it, but you'll never die from it, which makes it a lot easier for most people to probably deal with rather than trying to like perfectly time the stun or whatever. I would highly just suggest using immortality. You can see here I am soul split flicking. That's just because I'm not using a Reaver for this, and I'm just using like a Calgarian. But you definitely don't have to do that. But anyway, so you can see here I've skipped the third. You can see I've skipped this third pad. I don't like to do that pad. I saved that one for last because it summons some healers and stuff, and you definitely just don't want to be dealing with that. And I'm not overloaded, which is why my prayer is draining so fast. I was wondering what was going on. But anyway, you can see here we charge up the next pad. When the pad is charging, just make sure he stopped attacking you, and you can see you can soul split here for a little bit and get a fair amount of decent healing, especially with range. The next mechanic you can see is this weird little like yellow thing, and all it does is turn off your prayer, and then you just turn on pray magic, and it's pretty easy to deal with. I mean, it doesn't really hit that hard, as you can see. You can also use devotion against it, but again, it doesn't really hit that hard, so it's not like that big of a deal. And anyway, we just kind of go up to the next pad, and then we kill the witch again. You see here, we're just going to charge up this pad. And again, like I said, if you want, you can always just death swiftness here on the pads, and this pad will stun you, so you're going to have to anticipate or freedom. But yeah, so you can always death swiftness the pads to increase your DPS, but honestly, it's really not that big of a deal unless you're like specifically going for skips. So you can see this mechanic here, you stun him, and you want to stun him as fast as possible. You can see this is going to hit me really hard because I took a long time, and you can see how I double stacked my defensives. I used debilitate as well as reflect, and that's because if you take a long time to stun him, he will hit harder and harder with the mechanic. So if you do wait a long time like I did, you know, definitely be double stacking. So you can see this red thing here, this will stun you if you step on it when you're breaking the pad, and as you can see, it stuns you for long enough where you can't switch your prayer back. And so yeah, definitely try to be using anticipate when you step onto those red things when they're on the pad. It'll only be on the pad for number 2 and 3. So, or I mean for number 3 and 6 with this rotation. So it's pretty easy to deal with them. You can use like devotion, anticipate, and then step on them with pray magic on to completely block the hit. But yeah, definitely be doing something to deal with the pad, like you saw, that little like red thing. But yeah, like I said, you can always death swiftness here, and then again, you'll get stunned here on pads 5, 6, and then 3 as well. And then you can see here, you do have a fair amount of time to soul split, and then you can do this. Pray it here, and then you can see this is the next mechanic he does. This black stuff will stun you, and you kind of just stand here. When the black stuff is over you, it'll also do extra damage. So you can see I use anticipate and then like reflect to deal with the black slime garbage. And yeah, as you can see, you can always just eat up. Don't be afraid to eat. You will be eating for less, like your food heals you for less at this boss. The more pads you charge, I think it's after this 5th one, that your food starts healing you less. But yeah, as you can see, this one also has that this like red little thing on it that'll stun you. So I anticipated, used devotion, and then walked on top of it, and then you can see it completely nullified that mechanic. So before I get into this next pad charging thing, Zamorak's next mechanic is going to be that melee hit. So make sure you're ready to pray melee and deal with that hit for this next pad, because it will one-shot you if you don't. So yeah, definitely make sure you're doing something, and this will stun you again, like all the other pads past number 5. And then we're just gonna sit here and just DPS him down. Again, get ready to pray melee. He's gonna do that like right here. And then you can also devotion or reflect or whatever on it. And yeah, you definitely want to be praying for that, because it'll hit like a 7k on you if you don't, or more. I think it just one-shots you probably. So definitely be praying melee. So now we're on to phase 7. This is easily going to be the hardest phase. What we do here is we kill the demon. You can stun the demon if you want. I would highly suggest praying magic. He's going to throw 2 magic hits at you, and then we go and attack Zamorak. So I like to just throw a Vuln Bomb on him. As soon as he pulls the first rune, I like to drop a incendiary shot, and then we'll ricochet here. And then you can see we got Star Fork. And then I'm going to Adren Pot here, just to be getting some adrenaline here. And then we're going to kill it. Now we're going to Death Swiftness. It's kind of slow here, pray melee. And now we're going to use a defensive as well as the Vitality Potion. The best defensive you can use is Disruption Shield. And then we're going to like Dark Bow here if we can. Dark Bow. We got it even without the Dark Bow. So I was just fully revoing there. As you can see, I didn't really do too much. I was kind of explaining. But yeah, the best defensive to use for that big hit is going to be Disruption Shield. If you don't have this, definitely try to be using like Reflect or Debilitate or something. I think Reflect is probably better because it reflects damage back. But yeah, definitely be using a defensive and a Power Burst of Vitality. Technically, you can only use the Power Burst of Vitality, but the way that the final phase works is the longer you take to kill the runes after Zamorak is pulling them, if you take a long time to kill them, that big red attack will do more and more and more damage. So eventually it will get to a point where the Power Burst of Vitality won't actually like fully, protect you. And that's why it's good practice to use a defensive. Like I said, Disruption Shield is the best because you can actually just cast it without a cooldown, without like incurring your global cooldown. So you can continue to DPS fully while simultaneously getting the defensive up. But again, like I said, just use like Reflect if you don't have that unlocked. And as you can see, we got 4 mil loot, 8-minute kill, very slow. Again, I was just taking it as slow as possible, making sure to get all of the mechanics, and yeah, just kind of revoing and explaining exactly what all of the mechanics do. So in that kill, we did end up getting every single one of the mechanics that you will get, and we didn't skip any of them from DPS. So for this kill, before I charged up the pads, I built all 5 of my Death Spore stacks and then threw an incendiary shot onto the last witch, and then I threw down my Death Swiftness and immediately started charging the pad. And then, as you can see, I DPS down the pad, and then before Zamorak is able to do a special attack, I, threw out a Dark Bow or whatever I did in this kill, and it basically just phases Zamorak before he's able to do the special attack. And as long as you're able to phase Zamorak before he does that special, you can stall every single phase so that you never get a special attack. And then, by the time you get to phase 7, he hasn't done any special attacks, and you get really fast kills. So that's basically what I'm doing in this kill. As you can see, I'm probably going to skip some of this and then just skip right to phase 7, basically. But yeah. I am just going to do the final phase here, so all we're going to do is stun. So I'm going to put my Death Spore arrows on for this one, and basically what we're going to be doing here is probably just rapid fire this to try to get our stacks up. As you can see, we did get an eye and then a little weird shaped one. So you can see we incendiary and Death Swiftness is early, and now I'm just going to bulk spec this. Should kill it. No. Now we're just going to revo our rapid fire out. Make sure to pray melee here. And then defensive plus whatever. Dark Bow. And then just whatever. So as you can see, I mean, if you use Death Spores and, Bow of the Last Guardian on one of the runes and a Dark Bow, you can pretty much just nuke it. You can kill it. There are rotations that can kill it before it does the big hit. But honestly, they take paying attention and stuff. But as you can see, that's a 5-minute kill, so significantly better than the previous one. Alright guys, so before I get into this necromancy kill, I'm just going to kind of talk about why this is here. I didn't really know where to put a necromancy kill. I guess I could have made a whole video on it, but whatever. Basically, this is going to be a mostly Revo necromancy phase 7. I feel like you should be able to get through phase 1 through 6 based on the previous information, so I'm not even going to show that. But I do want to note a few things here before I get into this phase 7 footage, and that is there's 2 really important things to know about necromancy on phase 7 Zamorak. The first thing is going to be death skulls. So you essentially can't use death skulls at phase 7 Zamorak because it will bounce to a rune that Zamorak hasn't pulled and kill it, like the B rune specifically, and then it'll just like one-shot you and completely grief your phase 7, so you don't really want to be casting it. There are ways to stand in a certain tile that, like, as long as you don't get the B pull, it will work to use death skulls, but I'm not really going to get into that in this video. So that's the first thing. And the second thing that is really important is make sure when you're using Revolution that you're paying attention to what's happening with your Revolution bar, kind of specifically to make sure you're not casting your Volley of Souls on a rune. You want to make sure you're keeping your stacks for Zamorak himself, just to be getting that 5-stack Volley of Souls. This may work with tier 90 weapons and a 3-stack Volley of Souls, but you will definitely have to be, you know, a little bit more precise with your rotations. But yeah, I would highly suggest just getting the tier 95s for this probably. Again, tier 90s work, but you do have to be a little bit more comfortable. And then the last thing I'm gonna note is I'm not using Storm Shards or Shatter in this rotation guide. Frankly, I don't really think it's worth using these until 1000% because it's just way too much to pay attention to in upkeep. I know it's just one ability, but you have to like sit there and like cast it. I don't know, it's really dumb. But yeah, I don't really think it's worth using these until about 1000%. Unless you're like really struggling with phase 7, I would try to get a rotation working that doesn't rely on Shatter. It's just inconvenient to have to cast this throughout the kill, at least in my opinion. But if you are struggling, definitely start chucking shards on throughout the kill on cooldown and shattering the boss at the end for the free 30,000 hit. It makes it like stupidly easy at 100%. But again, like I said, you really shouldn't have to rely on it in my opinion. Alright, so you can see we are about to start the final phase here, and this is what I like to do. So first you're going to conjure your undead army. So we conjure here immediately, and then you just pray magic to deal with the demon. You can like Finger of Death the demon and just kill him. And then we Vuln Bomb and Invoke Death on Zamorak here. And then we are just going to kill this rune. And you can see we got a back rune over there. We try to be building as many stacks as possible for Volley of Souls here. And Necromancy is kind of unfortunate because it has such short range. I like to use Devotion here. And then we surge up, we kill Zamorak. We Finger of Death, Volley of Souls, use a potion, Finger of Death again, tier 90 spec, and then you can Touch of Death and then Finger of Death again after that. As you can see, you do have to manually cast quite a bit. I honestly don't really think Necromancy is very good for Zamorak. Like, the way that Necromancy is designed doesn't really work super great with this boss. You can't use Death Skulls on the final phase, like I said, it's just not worth it. But as you can see, with a basic understanding of how to use Necromancy, basically just using a few Finger of Deaths and you know, the tier 90 special attack and the EOF, or honestly, you could even use like the Omniguard special attack instead of the tier 90, but basically just one of your special attacks and then a bunch of Finger of Deaths and then, you know, a Volley of Souls. You should be able to get it. The only thing you have to pay attention to is make sure you don't blow your Volley of Souls on one of the runes, because that will kind of screw you over. You can also use Storm Shards and Shatter, but honestly, I'm not a huge fan of using those abilities at Zamorak until really high in rages, because it's just something to pay attention to, and honestly, it's not really, I don't know, it's just kind of an annoying ability to use. But yeah, hopefully that helps some of you guys who want to do Zamorak with Necromancy who maybe don't have range gear. It is definitely possible. You just have to know how to manually cast a little bit with some of the Finger of Deaths and stuff like that. Thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully this video helped some people get some pretty easy Zamorak kills. I was honestly pretty surprised with how easy, or how well, I guess, Revolution did with range to get these 100% P7s is honestly pretty chill. I mean, the first kill, if you noticed, I like Death Swiftness really late for some reason, and I still got a complete Revolution kill. I didn't even Bow of the Last Guardian or Dark Bow. That was all Revolution that got that kill. And yeah, it's just honestly pretty impressive how strong, I guess, the Bow of the Last Guardian with Dracolich armor is, even for Revolution. So yeah, hopefully you guys use this method. And if you made it this far in the video, definitely drop a like on it. It does help promote the channel. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.